Mein
Awesome.
Leben, dude.
Man, I want to play
Legendary.
Quake.
Dude, Quake is dope.
Those games like Doom and Quake when they first came out was so just like kind of bootleggy and just like, hey, we'll play our game. We're going to send it over our intranet. Like they had this weird, not quite internet. Like they're putting zip discs in Ziploc bags and like.
Also, they had freeware. id's thing back then was freeware. I remember the whole first episode of Doom, Knee Deep in the Dead. That was all freeware and I played the shit out of just that first episode when I was a kid.
LAN party, yeah.
Oh man, LAN parties. Fucking what was it? LAN parties always remind me of Counter-Strike. That's what it is.
Yeah, I've not played that one either. I was going to get the orange box when it came out years ago.
Orange box is amazing.
But I didn't. That was a great story I just told there.
Is that another one of the stacks of Steam games?
Oh, the Half-Life games. I got them all. I've not played past about 20 minutes of the first one, which I should do because I really like it.
Half-Life? Oh my god!
I've been playing Pillars of Eternity, man. I love that game.
Which one?
Pillars of Eternity.
That's
like Baldur's Gate style.
That's one I haven't played, like barely at all.
It's fantastic.
But, dude, Half-Life, man, you got to. At least Half-Life 2. Half-Life is a historical, like...
I feel like you have to play Half-Life.
You have to play it, and because when it came out, no other game had so seamlessly weaved a great story into the gameplay as well
and
as
the physics engine.
That's Half-Life 2.
Oh, yeah?
Half-Life 2 is what brought out the damn physics engine that blew up the entire gaming world. The ragdolling in that game was maybe the best part. So, yes. And Half-Life 2 was like, I can't remember any other game having physics puzzles before Half-Life 2.
Man.
So, Half-Life 2 is like a true masterpiece. I 100% recommend if you can skip Half-Life 1. I mean, it's good, but it's not. It doesn't hold up as well as Half-Life 2. And with Half-Life 2, even the graphics hold up. Like Half-Life 1, if you go try and play Half-Life 1, it looks. It looks.
If you want to feel good about your computer, be like, I'm gonna play Half-Life 1, put it on super ultra high mega settings because my computer's a beast. It's like your toaster could run that game.
Yeah, but Half-Life 2 still looks good. It's kind of amazing. And when was it? 2002? 2003?
I don't know. Around the same time as Deus Ex, I think. I don't know. That's also an awesome game, which you should all play.
Yep.
But the graphics are mega shite.
Oh, right. Richard reminded us of something. Black Mesa came out a couple years ago. It's a remake of Half-Life 1 in the Half-Life 2 engine. I should play that.
Ooh.
If you want to play Half-Life 1, I recommend just trying that. So anyway, what do we have today? After the interview, we have a couple SBTL Classic requests.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, we have two different Soundbooth Theater Live polls. One of them is called the Troll Poll, in which whatever you're requesting, we're going to mutilate for our own amusement. But the Classic Poll is where I will narrate whatever you put in front of me, and I will do it faithfully.
Old school SBTL.
I will do it. I will do it like a man.
I'll narrate like a man narrates like a chick. Ain't no messing around.
Yeah, exactly. No, I in the classics, I actually will take it seriously, do my best job, even though it'll be a cold read. I'm going to do the best job I can. Well, we have two requests today, and we have two narrators today, so I think it would be appropriate for Gary to do one, and then for me to do one. So, what do we have for today? We have, I think, Gary, you want to go first?
I can do that, yeah. We have Akashi's Will, the Harbinger Chronicles, Book 1. Quick question. Do y'all say Harbinger or Harbinger? Now, I've only heard Harbinger in widely published media, but I've heard people say and correct me and say it's Harbinger. I don't like that pronunciation, so I'm going to say Harbinger.
I prefer that pronunciation. I think Harbinger is correct.
Oh, right. It's the same like machinations.
Yep.
I have only heard machinations, yet every time I say machinations, I get a ping back saying, "Nah, it's machinations. We're not going to let that slide," and it makes me angry.
Yeah. Or GIF and GIF.
I think it's GIF, but is it? It is GIF.
It's
Is it not?
supposed to be GIF, but fuck
Is
that.
it?
Yeah, fuck that. I'm
I'm
calling it a
not
GIF.
gonna say. I'm not
GIF
saying
GIF is peanut butter.
I don't like that word GIF.
Yeah.
GIF.
I hate it. I hate it. It's too
Sounds
close
like
to my own
they're
name.
saying your
It's like
name.
it's like anyone saying that
Oh,
is
friend
mocking
GIF.
you. It's
GIF
like
are the chips.
it's like the N-word for Jeff.
Jesus. It
And
escalated fast.
and here we go. The other thing that I'm going to be narrating is someone requested Alpha Physics once again. It could have been Alex Kozlowski, the actual author of it. Maybe he liked it enough that he wanted to see some more. So I'm going to do that one again, and it's a different
Ooh.
chapter, of course. But yeah, Alpha Physics Book 1, Wagga by Alex Kozlowski
Sweet.
will be me. So Gary, would you like to take it away?
Yeah, I'm going to talk through on the characters here. So we have Afton, who this book will be is in the point of view from. He's the 22-year-old human male, and he loves his best friend Marty. And he sounds like an average young adult. Cool. Then we have Marty, 22-year-old gnome male, who's rambunctious and mischievous, confident and witty. He's going to be happy and brash. Pam is Pam from The Office. Glasmere is going to be a Gimli-sounding dwarven character, I imagine. Then Akira, I speak Japanese. I'm not going to say them the wrong way. I'm just a
we purposefully picked this one for you because you speak Japanese.
So let me see. Whiteford, Shokari female that speaks. We don't find out her name. Akira is a Shokari race. Okay, cool. And then we have Shino, Vaunted Trinity. He's a shade. I don't know what that is. We have Eli.
It's an undead. It's kind of like a wraith.
Oh, yeah, that sounds
kind of like a wraith.
Let me see. I'm just gonna read. Okay, here we go. This is
fellas.
An excerpt from chapter 3, and I'm going to imagine that Afton's American, so I'll be American for this. I need to make this bigger because I'm old now.
Take it away, Gary.
When we walked inside, our contact was easy to spot since she was the only other person in the room. Pam was wearing what looked like a light pink collared button-up shirt with a slightly darker pink button sweater. Her head full of brown curls bounced as she looked up and aimed a smile at us as we timidly walked through the door. Sitting on a stool behind a desk that was elevated to chest height, she called to us. Afton, Price, and Maddie Reddle. I see you're here to attempt the trials. How exciting. Come over here and I can record your information. We both walked forwards and stood in front of her desk. I hesitantly asked, how did you know who we were and that we were here for the trials? Oh, that's right. You would think that after working with so many hopeful Conry, I would be a little more mindful of my manners. She looked up at me and perhaps, seeing the sweat beading up on my forehead, gave me a sympathetic smile. It's okay, sweetie. I have access to information that only someone that has undergone the trials can possess. Once you complete them, everything will be explained to you. Thanks. I smiled back at her. Now, both of you place your right hands on the desk, palms down. She gestured to the space in front of her. When I placed my hand down in the designated area, my body stiffened in response. It was the briefest of sensations, but it felt like every muscle in my body went temporarily immobile and locked in place. The sensation passed so quickly that I wasn't even sure it registered. Correctly, or if it was just all in my head. Marty placed a palm on the desk a couple of seconds after mine, and although I was watching him for any signs of something odd, he didn't seem to react at all. We are good to go here. Pam smiled at both of us and pointed into a corridor leading out of the room to her right. Go through those doors and follow the purple line in the floor to your holding area. You will have a brief introduction and then the trials will begin. Good luck. We said our thanks to Pam and made our way through the designated door, Marty a half step behind me. After ensuring there was no visible mark or injury to my hand, I quietly asked Marty, Hey, did you feel anything odd when you placed your hand on the desk? Marty glanced at me curiously, then responded, Nope, all I felt was the desk. You didn't feel anything like an electric jolt or something? Like all your muscles went temporarily rigid for half a second? Doubt over the whole thing was starting to creep into my mind. I didn't feel anything like that. Marty slowed his pace and asked with concern, You okay, man? Taking a deep breath, I let it out slowly. Yeah, I'm fine. It was probably nothing. I'm just nervous about the trials. By the time we reached the doors that our purple line was directing us through, my nerves were mostly under control. Only a slight feeling of apprehension still resided within me as we walked through the doors that slowly opened to let us into the room. We paused in the threshold and looked around to take in our surroundings. There was a collection of couches and recliners that were arranged in varying sized clumps, scattered throughout a room that was perhaps a little larger than the apartment Marty and I had shared. Over 24 people were already occupying some of the seats, but everyone seemed to be keeping to themselves. Walking a little way into the room, we made our way to a pair of recliners that were near the center. Sitting down in one of them, I looked up in time to meet the eyes of a red-skinned orc sitting a couple seats down from me. I nodded to him in greeting, but he just looked away without acknowledging me. I noticed that most of the other people in the room cast furtive glances at each other, but no one was talking. So, how about the Trinity? Quite a few of the others jumped slightly and then shifted nervously in their seats when Marty interrupted the stillness in the room with his loud question. Anyone? Come on, people. We're all here to join the Akashi dungeon. You can't sit here and tell me you weren't pumped to see the Trinity kicking ass yesterday. Near the front of the room, a young Shokari girl turned in her seat to consider the gnome. The white fur with grayish-black stripes running down the length of her back made her stand out from the crowd. Her tail started languidly swishing back and forth behind her at Marty's question. Oh, little gnome, you are quite right. The Trinity are the best Shokari have ever offered to the Akashi. Her voice was soft and with a slightly melodic tone. There we go! Marty was starting to get a little amped that he had a crowd that was forced to listen to him. At least we have one fan here! Yes, I am, as you say, a devoted follower of the Trinity. The Shokari girl turned her head to look directly back at Marty. Then her green luminous orbs flicked over to study me as I was sitting next to him. My people have chosen me to be offered to the Akashi now. I will become as powerful as the greatest of the Trinity one day. She paused before continuing. Then, when I am too strong to be refused, I will choose Shino to be my mate. I will lay my Sora on his sleeping pad, and he will accept me. He will accept his place by my side. Her tail quivered slightly as she purred her claim to the room. It is known. Marty shrugged and said, Okay, crazy lady. Don't you think that you're going full fangirl on him? I mean, he is famous, so he probably has the pick of the ladies. I'm sure dozens have tried to claim him over the years. No, little gnome. I do not care for other women. He will be mine. The calm assurance in her words made it seem like it was already concluded, the intervening time just a formality. Her eyes were half-lidded as she turned back around in her chair, her tail swishing languidly behind her. Marty looked at me like he was seeking support, and I shrugged at him. Well, I won't get in her way. I wish her and Shino a long and happy marriage. Several of the nearby people chuckled softly at my comment. A dwarf that I hadn't noticed when we walked in smacked his arm on his recliner. That is one thing about being famous no one ever tells you. All of the adoration and well wishes from the fans is appreciated, but there is always a bit of the crazy that grips some of them. It shows itself in time to knock you right in the pecker when you aren't expecting it. Then it leaves you standing there holding your jewels, wondering what in all the dungeons just happened to the world. Marty met my eyes with a slight grin. Do you ever get the feeling that sometimes we just might be the sanest people in the room? Laughing. I'm not sure that has ever happened before. The room quickly quieted down when two men walked through the doors to stand facing the crowd. Both were wearing black tailored suits, jackets unbuttoned and hanging open. After he was assured that he had everyone's attention, the taller of the two announced to the onlookers, We will begin the trials shortly, but I have a couple of announcements to get through. The nervousness that I had thought was mostly under control redoubled its efforts. Although it tried, the blood that began pounding in my ears wasn't loud enough to drown out his next words. First things first. You all may have heard the rumor that if you fail the trials, you die. He paused as he scanned the faces looking at him attentively. I want to confirm to you right now that what you have heard is 100% true. You will die if you fail the trials. The entire room was so unnaturally still at this pronouncement, my ears started ringing slightly in the silence. He continued after letting that sink in. Anyone that is not okay with that risk, anyone who is not okay with that risk needs to step forward now. You will be taken to another room where a magical seal will be placed on you. It will bind your ability to talk about anything you have seen, heard, or done while in the compound today. All you will be able to tell anyone is that you didn't take the trials. Then you will be allowed to leave and return to your civilian life. Both men in the suits stood waiting at the front of the room for any takers. Eventually, a tall, lean man stood from a recliner in the back of the room and slowly made his way forward. From his build, I thought he might have some elvish blood in him. When he reached the two men in the front of the room, the second man, who hadn't been addressing the room, waved for him to stand next to him. This opened the floodgates, and more people quickly stood up and joined the first. The first man addressed the people still seated. Any last takers? Once that door shuts, there is no turning back. At his words, a couple more got up and hurriedly exited the room. When the door shut behind the group of people who left with the second man, I looked around the room and estimated that only about a dozen people remained in their seats. The first man continued. All right. Now that we have gotten that bit out of the way, he held his arms out to the people that stayed. Welcome to the Conry Trials. My name is Eli, and I will be your guide. He introduced himself with a nod to the onlookers. I know you all probably have a lot of questions, but this isn't a meet and greet. If you pass the trials, then we can talk. Right now, just listen to what I have to tell you. Do you all remember the magical circuits that were placed inside of you when you crossed through the gate? He paused as realization crossed all of our faces. Those circuits are controlled by Akashi himself. The trials will be conducted internally and are between you and him. No one else will ever see them, nor can anyone intervene. Akashi will either make you a Conry, or you will die permanently. Got it? Various people nodded slowly at his words. All right then. Shino, it's your show. He waved his hand at the wall in the back of the room. We all turned to stare at the place that he waved and then looked back and forth between the empty wall and the man in the suit as he stood with his arms crossed behind his back, completely at ease. Confused at what Eli was talking about, a girl with a mop of red curls that hung past her shoulders near to the area he indicated raised her hand and called to him. Sir? No one is back here but me. Eli looked at her with a pitying smile. I hope to see you on the other side. He looked back at her and saw that her head was rolled to the side. I thought she might have been sleeping until I saw the small red gash that was opened in the side of her neck. A small stream of blood was running down and mixing with the green of her blouse. I jumped to my feet in shock and yelled, She's dead! And there, we're going to end. What a cliffhanger.
There we go. Holy shit.
Hello.
Okay, so pretty intense.
She's dead.
Pretty intense little peek into that book.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It sounded well written. It sounded compelling and well written.
I want to read more. I want to know what happens.
So I left a link to the Amazon page for this book. It is in the chat. I don't know if it's in the description of the YouTube video, but it will be by the time if you're watching this as a replay, it'll be there probably. But yeah, so they already have an audiobook for it. Kaden Reed is the author. Akashi's Will, the Harbinger Chronicles, book 1. The audiobook is narrated by a C.J. McAllister.
I don't know. I'm interested.
Okay.
Might give it a listen.
Haven't heard this narrator before. You guys tell us what you think of him. And yeah, there it is. So you guys go pick it up if you're interested.
We'll get
But
it.
Gary, very good read, dude. Your cold reads are fucking on point, man.
I mean, I think we mentioned it a while back, like similar to yourself, that like it got to the point where you just had to, like, you had to be able to cold read because sometimes there's no time for prep.
Yeah. Yep.
And I hope I do an okay job. That's always the goal. Do a
You
good
were
job,
you were
hopefully.
doing awesome on that one. It's just like hardly any inflection mistakes in any of it. Just it's fucking great. You know,
Helps when
one
it's well written. When it's well
yeah,
written, it almost narrates itself. Like
right. That's
all the
that's
cues are there.
that's the truth. And you know, one thing that I've always thought, um, coming up as an audiobook narrator, starting in, other random voiceover stuff before doing, narration, is that other voice actors really have it easy, right? They
It's
don't
hard. Fucking long, hard work.
long, hard work, and whereas uh, most voice actors, when they find that out about narrating books, right, they start trying. They're like,
Hmm.
"Holy fuck," they give up, and they're like, "This is too much work, I don't wanna deal with this for the amount of pay that I get," right?
It's
And
it's true.
then they don't get to sharpen their chops like we do.
It's
That's the
yeah, I mean,
thing.
it's not for everyone. It really isn't. I suppose it worked out for us. It suits our temperament, suits our skill set, something we like to keep doing. And you get
Yeah.
to play all the characters. It's like
Right.
you get to play everyone. Like there's some stuff, there's degrees of castability, like on camera. Well, only a certain amount of people can fill this role. On stage, maybe certain people can fill this role that couldn't do it on camera. In audio,
Yeah.
can you sound like that person? Then you are that person.
Yep, yep, and that's the beauty of it, and when you're in audiobooks and you're forced to be the casting director of the story that you're reading, then you gotta, you're casting yourself every time.
Yeah.
So you gotta be up for the job every time, and so we have to, like, at least that's how I got better, is I was like, "No
Oh
excuses,
yeah, same.
motherfucker. You do this right."
It's
And,
the most fun part.
it really is, especially when there's a stretch, especially it's like, How do I do that?" And then you figure it
Yeah.
out. But, we get so much practice. And it's all
Um,
go, 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 on a deadline, and not only that, but we have to care about how it sounds as well. Whereas, other voice actors, I think they get to rest on their laurels. They get to find out what their specialty is, and then they just go after those jobs. So, I think we got a leg up. I think most narrators who've been through a real career, right? Doing, more than 100 audiobooks or something at some point. Uh, I think once you go through that many audiobooks, you're gonna be much easier to direct. It's gonna be much
oh
easier for
yeah.
you to pick up anything, any random thing than any other voice actor who's doing anything else. I mean, except maybe animation. Animation and video games people, there's like absolute pros in that industry where it's even
Oh
more
yeah,
important
definitely.
to be flexible and stuff, and to have a lot of range, and to be able to get things quickly, because the people that are paying you by the hour, not
I just
by
think
per finished
across the
hour.
whole spectrum of voiceover, being flexible, being adaptable, that's gonna win. That's gonna win over almost talent, I would say. Like if you can be directed well to
Hmm.
achieve the result that is wanted by the whoever's the director, even if it's you, you'll do all right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So what's next? Alpha physics.
You're
Let's
reading, boy.
I'm reading this time, y'all. Okay, so I just realized this is the one where the main character is Australian, and I'm
Do
pretty
it.
good at this. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at this,
Guy
but I did go
J5.
I did take 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 lessons from Amy Walker,
Amazing. She's
right?
amazing.
She's amazing, mate. Ugh. Oh, Jesus. I
You
just
grant.
I'm alright. I just gotta get back into it, and then
Just gotta do
fuck
it.
up a little bit, and then, I'll get back into the swing of it. I'll remember stuff as we go. One thing that I would like to request from authors, more Australian characters so I get more practice. So
or just the creative control to be like, can I make them Australian? All
Yeah,
all of them?
all of them. I'm just gonna narrate Australian. I'm gonna make all the characters Australian. I'm gonna have to re-record the first 4 chapters once I've gotten into the swing of things.
Yeah.
All right. So, Alpha Physics by Alex Kozlowski.
Going
All
on
right,
mute.
Adrian is the main character, 40-year-old who had his body reduced to early 20s. Technically Aussie, but that does not matter too much. He's a project manager stuck 1,000 miles from his family in a post-apocalyptic world. No cars. All right, and I'm fairly certain all other characters in the scene are so short-term that they can be voiced however. Okay, well, let's do this. Oh, good. Gary's gone. Whew. Now I can talk mad shit. All right. With a suppressed curse, Adrian's attention focused on the noise. A young man dressed in modern clothes was running from the oven. He had an Arab's olive skin tones and facial features, but no beard. He was a fellow worker, and Adrian had dim memories of meeting him last week, but could remember nothing about him, apart from his being shy and reserved. The young man tossed a rock at a group of imps. His throw was a good one and went about 40 meters. Instantly, most of the imps Instantly, most of the imps, not apes. Instantly, most of the imps nearby aggroed on him. The man ran hard for about 20 meters before veering away and throwing a stone at another group of imps. Another 40 imps were turning to follow him. Then the man blurred forward, crossing 10 meters in an instant. What the hell, Adrian thought, before realizing that the man had probably gained skills like he had gained the ambushers. What the hell, Adrian thought, before realizing that the man had probably gained skills like he had gained the ambusher's skills. Adrian focused his identification skill on the man. Level 8, Courier. Would they say courier? 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 Courier. Because, like, American would be courier. Is English courier? Courier?
We say courier.
Courier? Okay.
Courier.
Level 8, Courier. Like that?
I think so, yeah.
Courier? Level 8, Courier. The rest of the impression was just a feel of the relative attributes of the man in front of him. The man was faster, stronger, and quicker than Adrian, though not by a huge degree. He also had access to 3 unique skills. The first was the rush skill that he had just witnessed. The second was a dodge that would allow him to evade an attack every couple of seconds, and the last skill was to create a very brief field that would effectively block a blow, magical or physical. As he watched in amazement, the man was doing a zigzag run. Just run straight! He felt like screaming the words. The imps were not human. They guided their magic. The zigzag run would be effective against bullets or thrown objects, but against the imps it was pointless and just slowed everyone down. Just run. Adrian tried to project his thoughts, but it was useless. The man kept up his zigzagging. He threw another stone, aggroing another chunk of imps, before utilizing the rush skill once more to keep the imps in front from hemming him in. Before utilizing the rush skill once more to keep the imps in front from hemming him in. The long throws were aggroing imps behind, beside, and in front of the man. The man escaped the gathering imps. Maybe the mad rush would be successful. For the life of him, Adrian could not work out what the man was trying to do. A big train of imps followed the man. Luckily for him, imps were slow, so if he stopped zigzagging, he would escape. Over 70 imps were following the man, so Adrian kept his ambusher fade in place. There was nothing he could do against that many imps apart from run. The man used his rush ability again. This time, magic focus caught the action. The rush ability was unique in his experiences. The imp's powers were completely different, and even the ambusher had observed nothing like this. The power started early in the man's muscles. Every single muscle in the man vibrated with extra internal energy. The muscles were jumping with the energy. Then, altogether, they moved faster and sped the man forward. The ability was based on his internal strength and agility, as opposed to any mana expenditure. As the magic worked, the courier's mana levels As the magic worked, the courier's mana levels held dead steady. Here was sudden movement back at the oven, and a crowd of about 15 men and a couple of women emerged. Adrian finally understood what the crazy man was doing. He was drawing the imps away to allow the rest of his co-workers to escape. Adrian felt humbled by the man's courage and reassessed to see if he could help. The train of imps was catching up to the man, and there were so many of them. If Adrian got near them, they would just blast him to bits. At the oven, Graham, the site supervisor, was leading and directing the group. He was talking quickly with firm commands. The old man looked bigger and stronger than he had previously. But when Adrian tried his identification, it failed as the target was too far away. Quickly, Graham's men ran out of the oven through the area the courier had cleared. The entire group clutched improvised weapons. For most, it was a tool like a large metal wrench, but some had resorted to broomsticks. A couple just clutched rocks. They were clearly expecting to fight their way out. Adrian would have loved to join them, but he knew at a glance they were too far away for him to navigate through the imps. It was a moot point anyway. The courier, with the crowd of imps following him, had curved around and was now between Adrian and Graham. The courier's battle had descended to a struggle for every breath. He was using all three abilities, one after another. Magic focus highlighted the strain the effort was inflicting. The internal vibrations were becoming erratic. Worse for the man, he kept throwing rocks. More and more imps were aggroing on him. The vibrating energy was responding slower. When the man rushed forward, he only covered 7 or 8 meters as opposed to the previous 10. The man threw another rock, this time aiming for a group in front of him. The rock traveled over 30 meters and aggroed all the imps he was heading towards. They started hopping towards him. He saw 2 of the closer imps launch fireballs at him, so he activated dodge. The 2 fireballs flashed through the space the courier had been standing in. What I just did was I was like, oops, I messed up. I'm going to reset my playhead and retake it. I reached over to do that just now. Let's see. He lowered his head and charged along the previous route. As Adrian watched, he prayed to a god that he had never believed in. Oh, okay, Australian. Please make it. There we go. Adrian was a helpless spectator to the events unfolding. Like a ghoul, magic focus was actively extracting everything possible from the encounter. The familiar muscle vibration of the rush kicked in. The familiar muscle vibration of the rush kicked in. Multiple imps were preparing attacks. The muscles vibrated, but there was not enough left in the tank. The skill failed. Time had been dragging and seemed to speed up to normal. Air caught in Adrian's throat. The brave man stumbled slightly, almost falling to his knees. He caught himself and kept going. But a thread of dark energy reached between the man's knees and a nearby imp. The missile spun through the air, and time slowed. The dark missile was slow, but the courier had nothing left to stop it. I keep wanting to say courier with a British accent, because I was worried about it earlier. Jeez, what is wrong with my narration today?
You got this, Jeff.
I got it, guys. Something. Please help him. Another step forward. The tendril of energy stretched without breaking. The missile adjusted to follow. It had already left the imp's claws. Another step. Once more, the tendril stretched, following the running man. It hit just below the knee. Vitality drained from the leg, and the courier stumbled. He fell hard. The third skill, which used magic, activated, and a shield snapped into place over him. The man was trying to pull himself to his feet. Only one leg worked, and his efforts were futile. Another dark bolt hit and sizzled into nothing against the shield. The shield fell away in a scattering of energy. 3 fireballs and 1 ice bolt rushed through the space, smashing into the man. 2 firebolts in the head, 1 ice bolt in the shoulder, and the last firebolt into the already dead leg. The courier died instantly. his face charred away to leave it unrecognizable. Okay, and then we have one more page here from chapter 8. The crowd of imps were just 30 meters away from Adrian's standing spot. Fury bubbled within him, yet ambushers' fade stopped even clenched fists from expressing the anger. Let's try that again. Fury bubbled within him, yet ambushers' fade stopped even clenched fists from expressing the anger. The anger. Revenge now. Safety be damned. There were over 80 imps in the crowd around the courier. They were going to fight each other. Another 30 to 40 were heading towards the courier. But the instant the courier died, the rage in each of the faces receded, and the imps turned around to return to where they had come from. No better, perhaps worse, than dumb, stupid insects. Just a basic set of instructions. The enormous group of 80 were a mixture of different types. They did not instantly disperse. Instead, they saw each other and exploded into a frenzy of chaotic violence. Adrian watched the fight in amazement as magic exploded everywhere in the group. They were so packed that, at one point, a chain of 4 imps in a row died simultaneously. The first one shot the imp in front, while the one behind it killed it by point-blank shooting the imp with its dark missile. The one behind that dark imp did not even attack deliberately. Instead, the fire imp died a victim of an ice bolt from behind. With nothing constraining the fireball, it shot forward the 30 centimeters and hit the dark imp in the back of the head. The 5th imp got off scot-free and had the perfect view to watch the other 4 keel over almost as one had... The 5th imp got off scot-free and had the perfect view to watch the other 4 keel over almost as one and collapse to the ground. Ice bolts flew as dark missiles launched, and fireballs splashed into unexpected backsides, killing their target and singeing the other imps around it. It was chaotic and devastating, and imps were dying everywhere. Revenge for the courier was occurring without him lifting a hand. They were destroying each other. The numbers of the gathered imp types were surprisingly balanced. Smiling a manic grimace, Adrian knew what he was going to do. Let them spend their mana and then start clawing each other, then storm in and finish them while they were weakened. Claim the day for humans. Violently avenge the brave courier's death or die trying. Safe from any imps nearby, he bent down and picked up 2 fist-sized rocks. They would be his weapons. Further away, the group that Graham was leading were escaping. Hurrying across the emptied space, they moved like skittish antelopes. A group of imps they were sneaking past randomly changed directions and looked straight at them. Fear gripped him. The three imps immediately reacted, hopping forward and summoning their magic. The humans saw and went from deer to tigers. One of them launched a rock that flew like a missile and slammed into one imp, killing it instantly. Other rocks went flying, but most missed. Though one clipped an imp, doing minor damage. The rock counterattack was too late, too amateur, and too inept. The 2 remaining imps launched their fireballs unimpeded. One fireball swung wide as some sort of magic shield deflected it, but the other one kept going unaltered and slammed into a man's leg. He went down screaming. Graham was suddenly next to him, swinging the man over his shoulder, and they kept running, not pausing for even a moment to finish the 2 imps which were still standing. Adrian stopped tracking the men, conscious of the coming fight. Magic focus tracked the energy levels of the imp battle royale. Over half were already dead, and the ones that survived had their mana levels plummeting to 0. The aggro range of the imps at the edge of the battle ended 10 meters away. 2 large rocks, one in each hand, ready for anything. He started sneaking forward. Like an angel of death, descending with exaggerated stealth. Surprise counted as a critical strategy. Invisible movement was effortless. They were so focused on each other, they were not looking around. Instead of the normal 20 meters of eyesight, they had barely a 5-meter range. Better still, with their squealing and magic attack, sound was a non-factor. Hell, a bull walking through a China picnic would have remained unheard. Bah. Hell, A bull walking through a China picnic would have remained unheard. More magic flashed as they kept fighting, and fresh imps died. 15 meters away, and they still had not noticed. Then, only 10 meters away, Adrian broke into a run. And that's it. That is Alex Kozlowski's Alpha Physics. So, imps. He fought a lot of imps. Did we get anything else out of that story?
That was very D&D, had a very D&D vibe to it. I would also like to point out, and Rich pointed this out in the private chat, when you said 1 page, right, I was like, okay, I'm going to put my green sheet on my head to look invisible. So I spent like 5 to 8 minutes with a green sheet on my head, just like half sitting there kind of going, why am I doing this? Like sitting here when there's just no one's even seeing it. Anyway, sorry, I was just like that. Oh God. Yeah, that had such a like
These are giant pages, but these are like this is like Microsoft Word doc at like 9-point font.
Yes, 8.6. It had such a like he's activating magic spells, and a lot of them sound like they come from Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that
I mean, Fireball is the meme spell from D&D.
The meme spell.
Cast Fireball. I mean, why wouldn't you?
So, Mr. Alex Kozlowski, if that is your name, thank you for requesting that one. Maybe it'll get requested again, but that was our classic SBTL.
It was awesome.
Classic
nice work
section, yeah. And it's doing really well. So if you guys liked that, please go check out Amazon. You can find it there. Seems to be a popular book.
You do now.
Right on. All right, so before we get started with Gary's Games, I just have a little bit of news about Gary's Games. Justin has been talking to the developers of AI Dungeon.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys remember this, anybody who's here, who's a regular here at Soundbooth Theater Live, but we played that like 2 or 3 times. I mean, we've gone through a lot of butt plugs in that game.
We have.
So any of you who were there for those, we had a great time, and I hope you guys did too. But those guys are kind of working with us a little bit to come up with some more improv games. They even have like an improv game that they've already programmed that isn't quite done, but once it's done, they want us to test it here on Sunday.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. We can rename it to like Justin's Japes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Jeff Hijinks.
Yeah. So